Well, let's talk about the current state of the association. Lots being discussed about the ratings for the NBA. Are they alarmed by this, or it's just early season, or they're alarmed because they thought the cup would be something that would spike interest? What do you think here?
The NBA says they're not alarmed by it. I was part of a handful of reporters that talked to Adam Silver on Tuesday in Vegas, and Adam has been beating kind of the same drum, saying, hey, look, yeah, they're down a little bit, but cable TV ratings across the board are down. We just had a polarizing election. We had a major World Series featuring the Los Angeles Dodgers. Like he's pointing to a lot of different touch points there that
for viewing fatigue.
That would drive viewership down. I personally believe that there's more to it. I personally believe that the product is getting worse. And I think it's getting worse because the proliferation of the three-point shot is getting out of control. This year, you're going to have the Boston Celtics break the all-time record for most threes per game. The record, I think, is around 45, 46. The D'Antoni Rockets averaged that a couple of times back in the late teens. The Celtics are over 50 now. There's 5 or 6 teams, I think, averaging better than 40 points per game. There's, I think, 2 or 3 teams that could finish the season with more than half their shot attempts per game being three-pointers. I don't think that's good basketball. I don't think that's compelling television. I don't think fans want to go back to the days of the late 80s, early 90s, where the scores are 87, 85 in a competitive game. But I also don't think that they want to sit there, turn their TV on, and witness a three-point contest. So this was something, by the way, when I asked Adam Silver about it, he wouldn't agree with my premise that there's too many threes, but he does agree with the premise that the type of play, the quality of play needs some evolving.
So what would one do about that? Let's just say you are onto something here, and you can't take the three away. You can't actually penalize teams for taking too many of them. So do you move it back? Do you move the three-point line back?
No, mostly because nowadays guys are pulling up from 25
from
feet.
The logo.
Right?
I know. I hear you, but if there are more lower percentage shots being taken, that will absolutely, defray a product. That's for sure. And then you throw on top of it more and more of these shots taken by guys that you don't know of, because the guys you do know of might be out because there's a back-to-back, might be out because they're maintaining an injury that they're coming back from a few months ago or something. There's Luka's out with a heel injury tonight. This is after he hasn't played for 5 days, and he had a triple-double the last time you saw him. Now, hey, everybody, go watch the Mavs because Kyrie's out too. Like that's a problem. I mean, you want the stars on the floor, and they're not on the floor as much, and those who are on the floor are taking more lower percentage shots. Doesn't it all add up? Maybe?
Yeah, well, look, the argument that teams would make is that analytically they're higher percentage, right? Because their numbers suggest if you shoot 40 to 45 threes per game, you're going to finish the game with more points than if you take better, quote, percentage.
Yeah, but that's
shot.
Moneyball stuff, man.
Right, but that's how teams are run nowadays. Like that's that. And look, my issue is that this is a trend. It's not an aberration. It's a trend. Whatever the numbers suggest about how they kind of flatlined the last few years, and the NBA would push back and say that's the case. You're seeing 7-footers coming into the league either as three-point shooters or trying to become three-point shooters. I'll give you an example. I was at a Grizzlies game early in the season, and I was watching Zach Edey warm up. He's warming up behind the three-point line. Zach Edey, who was a paint player in college basketball, one of the best college basketball players during his time, jacking up threes because he gets it. His team wants him to be a corner three-point shooter. They want spacing, all those things that you hear about all the time. So it's going to continue to trend in that direction. Now, you asked what you can do about it. Moving the three-point line is that's not going to work. It's not going to change anything. I think there are things that the NBA can do within its current rules, right? Like you can allow more physicality on the perimeter. You can bring back some hand checking. I saw Rick Pitino suggesting something similar on social media this week. I also think that you can enforce some rules on the outside. Like, how many times do we see a guy take what's probably an illegal step back, right? Like, you're dribbling, you're inside the three-point line, all of a sudden you take this giant step back that could be construed as a travel. You can start enforcing some of the current rules to try to bring some of those numbers down. You could also try a radical approach. Like, one thing I've suggested to other coaches, been largely laughed at, but like, say you cap the number of threes that you can make per game. You can say, hey, you can make as many as 15 threes per game. You're not liking it either. No, I got that same reaction.
Well, yeah, because, people in the stands aren't going to be like, well, we're down by 6. It's now a 3-possession game because we're out of 3-pointers.
You're 100% right in the sense that.
So who's keeping track of that in the stands in the fourth quarter,
I agree. And that when I brought this up after the presser to Adam, that was one thing that he brought up. He's like, we don't need to confuse our fans any more than they already are at times. Like, already, like the NBA Cup, to bring it full circle there, nobody really understands it, right? Like, nobody understands what game. I mean, they know what games count because the courts are different in all these different games.
Yeah,
but
right.
You don't know. Like, I just had to vote for the all NBA Cup tournament team or whatever they call it. And like the NBA, to their credit, sent me all the stats because I don't know what the stats were for, the 5 or 6 Cup games that most of these teams play.
It's already locked in on pool play.
I was not. I was not locked in on that. Like, Giannis definitely gets a slot. Damian Lillard gets a slot. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets a slot. Yes. And the other 2 guys, I don't know. Look, it's a complicated question with no clear solution. But I do think the NBA is trending in a bad way. I think the 3-point shot is hurting the league, and I think that some of these lower viewership numbers are a reflection of that. Maybe not all of them, but I do think as many of the young kids that love 40 to 50 threes per game or 60 threes per game, I think there's also a section of people, the grassroots basketball fan, that doesn't love it, and it's getting turned off by some of these games.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.